G'day guys and gal, the Primarchs were pretty polarizing figures, that's a bit of a no-shit Sherlock. However, before the heresy they were almost universally admired by most of mankind. However, someone who had a bit more of a less impressive opinion of them was none other than Constantin Valdor, Captain General of the Adeptus Custodes and a man who was often referred to as the Primarch of the Custodian Guard. Valdor was a no-nonsense, no-bullshit guy that saw flaws and threats everywhere. He saw past the glitz and glamour of the Primarchs to who they truly were. That isn't to say he hated them all, but he definitely had a unique perspective which was quite insightful and definitely worth your time today. Before we get started, it's Saturday baby, and boy do I have something fucking hot for ya. Introducing the Golden Dreadlord, a horrifying shield captain with a dread host who reaps his enemies. Although he appears evil and corrupted, nothing could be further from the truth. This model features 2 weapon variants as well as 2 head variants and a custom base. It's honestly one of the most stunning models we've ever produced. The inspiration follows our Golden Guardian series, which combines Diablo Angels with Custodian Guard elements. This guy was inspired by Mathael, and I frothed the shit out of him. If you wanted a unique, sexy shield captain for your golden banana boys, then this is your guy. On top of that, we're running a very special sale right now. For the next 72 hours, if you guys get the Warren Bristol Studios Precision Painting handle, you can get another mini for 50% off. Any minis you want bar the Titans, including the new Golden Dreadlord. As a bit of context on what the painting handle is, painting handles are a great way to level up your painting game, but most of them are shit. The Precision handle allows you to rotate your minis from the top, so you aren't twisting your hand trying to get arthritis for all those hard to reach areas. It also features a number of attachable head variants, such as the 35mm flat attachment for painting whole minis, the cone attachment for segmented painting, like when you want to do a head, as well as the cork attachment, for when you want to stab different bits into it. Once the painting handle is sold out, it's gonzos and we are low on stock. Especially with this 50% off mini deal we have running, I imagine it won't last long. Link to the new mini, the painting handles, or dozens of other major minis, including pre-painted minis, is below. Today we'll go over Valdor's opinion of each Primarch and how that opinion may have evolved over time. Let's get into it. As a note, Valdor generally distrusts all Primarchs, especially when the heresy broke out, so instead of just repeating myself 18 times over, yes, Valdor distrusted more or less all of them for most of his life. We will start in order of Legion, which gives us the Lion first. Unfortunately, the Lion and Valdor more or less never interacted, and with the Lion being such a secretive figure, Valdor never really shared much of an opinion on him. Valdor would have recognized the Emperor's massive respect for the Lion and likewise would have felt similar, however I doubt he would have trusted him. In a similar vein, we don't get to see much screen time between Valdor and Fulgrim. However, I imagine Valdor would have felt a similar way to how the Khan and a few others viewed Fulgrim, that being that Fulgrim was wildly insecure and was overcompensating, putting on a big show of bravado to try and mask his fragile ego. This is the conclusion everyone perceptive and immune to Fulgrim's charm came to. So I imagine it's what Valdor would have done as well. When Fulgrim joined Horus, Valdor's opinion would have dramatically soured as it did with all other traitors. Now onto Perturabo, sadly once again no shared screen time. Guys, I swear Valdor does actually speak with a number of the Primarchs and actually has some cool tangible opinions, it's just unfortunate the first few Primarchs weren't a part of those. Valdor was interesting because he could actually disagree with the Emperor but also not really give a fuck about those disagreements. So in Perturabo's case, I imagine Valdor would have seen Perty's poor treatment by the Emperor and logged it as a potential mistake, but likewise would have trusted his liege lord's judgment and not brought up the issue. During the Siege of Terror, Valdor was amongst those that recognized Perturabo as a massive threat due to his siege expertise. Finally, we have something a bit more tangible now with Jagged-Eye Khan. Surprisingly, Valdor actually highly rated and respected the Khan, unusual since many thought the Khan savage and reckless. Valdor rated him as one of the most brilliant commanders amongst all the Primarchs, up there with Rabute and Horus. Interestingly, he didn't include the Lion up there on that list, which shows that he probably barely knew enough about him. He always seemed to consider the Khan in the overall tactical situation instead of forgetting about him, which many other Primarchs did. They got along well during their time together in the siege. Valdor tended to like the less conventional, strict Primarchs like the Khan and Russ, finding their more open, honest, less ego-driven personalities refreshing. Speaking of which, Valdor probably liked Russ the most out of all the Primarchs. In a way, they were connected as both were given a spear of the Emperor, the spears being sisters. They travelled together to Prospero, and although they raged and debated with each other on the course of action to take, they respected each other as brothers. When Russ attacked Prospero, Valdor kept his forces behind as he didn't agree with the actions. However, when the Thousand Sons started using fucked up sorcery against the Space Wolves, he committed his own force as it was clear the Thousand Sons would be on saving. When they parted ways after Prospero, they still held each other in high regard and were even reunited after the siege. Russ was devastated that he was too late to save his father. Valdor felt resigned. However, he did something he had never done before. Valdor. He put his hand on Russ's shoulder as a sign of reassurance and told him that the fight was not yet done. There were more stories yet to tell. The only Primarch that could be argued to be more well respected by Valdor than Russ was Rogal Dorn himself. Valdor and Dorn spent a shitload of time together preparing for the siege, and a lot of it was spent in debate. For example, Valdor worked with Malcador on the Officio Assassinorum's attempt to assassinate Horus, something that Rogal despised and actively sabotaged. But despite occasionally being at odds, the two Primarchs conferred with each other regularly and respected each other greatly. They fought side by side on the Vengeful Spirit, with Dorn saving Valdor's life, and it was these two sons of the Emperor that carried their lord's broken body back to the Golden Throne. Conrad didn't really get along with anyone, including his own legion, so I think Valdor would have rather suck Lizzo's fat farts than talk to the Night Haunter. I imagine he just saw him as insane, with Conrad's betrayal merely confirming that fact even further. On the flip side, everyone likes Sanguinius, including Valdor. Valdor likes Sanguinius in general, perhaps slightly suspicious of his wings, but liked him regardless. However, towards the end of the siege, all surviving loyalists had nothing but complete respect and adoration for each other. Sanguinius called Valdor his brother. Valdor replied that he had nothing but honor in his heart for Sanguinius. Valdor never thought he would like any of the Primarchs like he ended up doing. A part of him hated that he liked some of them. It was actually quite cute. When it comes to these lists, Ferrus falls ahead short, but seriously though, the dude has very little lore due to his untimely death and shares no screen time with Valdor. I can imagine Valdor would have appreciated Ferrus's straightforwardness and wearing everything on his chest. As I said, he held a lot of mistrust for the Primarchs, so for the ones that never kept you wondering what they were thinking, Valdor would have mistrusted less. Like most people, Valdor would have despised Angron even before he turned traitor. He was a raging, uncontrollable retard, the opposite of a custodian. Also, one of the first things Angron ever did when he was taken by the Emperor was brutally kill a custodian. As custodians are quite close fraternally and mourn the loss of each other, Valdor especially would have been pissed with Angron for that. Valdor rated Guilliman incredibly highly as a commander and leader of men. However, Guilliman was also almost universally disliked by the Primarchs because he was a bit of a tryhard, with Valdor likely amongst those that were a bit iffy on him. The Emperor himself questioned Guilliman's intentions during the heresy and was glad the line was on his way to sort him out, so Valdor's opinion may have lined up with his lord's. We literally don't get a cum-lick spittle of lore between Mortarion and Valdor. However, I can't imagine Valdor was ever a fan. Morty, even before he was a traitor or a smelly Mothman, was shit to be around, a massive vibe killer. I doubt he would have liked how intense Mortarion was about Psykers and the Council of Nicaea, but who the fuck knows? This might be surprising to hear, but Magnus was actually pretty well liked by most people, other than the Psyker haters, prior to the Council of Nicaea. However, Valdor was sent alongside Russ to spank Magnus and bring him home. Horus intervened and encouraged Russ to kill Magnus, an order that Valdor didn't agree with. When the Space Wolves invaded, Valdor held his forces back. However, he quickly saw that the Thousand Sons were using some fucked up warp sorcery and were decimating the wolves, hence he decided they had gone too far and truly were lost. That's when the Custodian Guard got involved alongside the Sisters of Silence and crushed the Thousand Sons Legion. After these events, Valdor would have despised Magnus for such a betrayal of the Emperor's edict, removing any traces of respect or affection he may have had. Horus was incredibly charismatic, and not even Valdor was able to entirely resist his charms. He rated Horus as the greatest commander and even paid him that begrudging respect when Horus turned traitor. There is actually a very popular but inaccurate piece of lore that states that Valdor once beat Horus in a sparring match. This never happened as far as the lore is concerned. The two legends never really interacted much. However, Horus did want Valdor to join his new Mournival, which shows he held the Captain General in high regard, indicating towards a previous friendship. After all, when Horus was found, it was he, Valdor, and the Emperor fighting side by side to conquer the galaxy for many years. Like pretty much everyone, Valdor wasn't a fan of Lorgar. Valdor dogmatically followed the Imperial truth and found Lorgar's obsession with religion and deifying the Emperor as distasteful. Lorgar in turn despised all Custodes, so I don't think there was any love lost there. Valdor and Vulcan didn't cross paths much. However, they did spend a bit of time together when Vulcan arrived on Terra just before the siege. Vulcan found Valdor cold and took it upon himself as a bit of a challenge to make Valdor like him. We don't really get to see how that panned out. However, by the end of the siege, I think everyone still left alive would have had a soft spot for each other. Corax and Valdor's paths just straight up never crossed, it seems. Just one of those two cases of two different characters on their own trajectories. It's heavily implied that out of all the Primarchs, Corax was the only one told about chaos prior to the heresy, as he was the only one that could handle it. So through that, I believe Valdor would have held more trust towards him than most other Primarchs. And finally, Alpharius. Surprisingly, Alpharius and Valdor actually have some decent lore. Alpharius staged the mock assassination attempt on the Emperor early on in his life to show that there were weaknesses in the palace's defenses. As he lined up his sniper shot on his father, Valdor intercepted him and the two warriors briefly dueled, being evenly matched. Alpharius low-key became obsessed with the idea of the duel and having a rematch. Valdor moved on with his life in his classic nonchalant way. When it comes to Primarchs and Valdor's mistrust, Alpharius would have been at the top of his list. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Golden Dreadlord, as well as the Precision Painting Handle, which will net you 50% off a major mini of your choice. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.